Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 9 of my How to Make Video Games tutorial series. In this part, we're going to continue on the second part of how to make Tetris from scratch. And what I mean by scratch is I have done nothing to prepare ahead of this video. So you're going to see the whole thought process of me trying to figure out how Tetris works and how to make it work. Like always, all the code is available in the description underneath the video, and I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Okay, so this is where I left you off, and I'm trusting that you guys knew that you had to save your scene, so that's the only thing I didn't do. You can see right here now I have main scene saved inside of there, and obviously you just go File, Save Scene, da-da-da-da-da. Alright, so what do we need to do here? Well, let's zoom out here. Basically, we created our interface last time. We created all of our prefabs for our walls and everything, and basically, we didn't create any scripts. So what I'm going to do this time is so I can experiment through this whole process of creating Tetris, I'm going to create a script that's going to spawn a shape on the screen. And a good name for that, I'm going to come in here and go create and C# script, and I'm going to call this shape spawner because that's what it's doing. So there we go. We got that created, and I'm going to open it up. And Visual Studio is going to open up, and I'm using Visual Studio Community 2017, which is free. So I get asked that all the time. It's the only reason why I'm bringing it up. Okay, so here we are. It opens up in Visual Studio. Now I have to think about what I'm going to do with this. Well, basically, I need to randomly open up any different numbers of shapes. So what I need to do is I need a way to store those shapes that I'm going to open. So I'm going to say that I want to create an array of game objects, and I'm going to call these shapes because that's what they are. And what else am I going to have to do with them? Well, I'm going to have to spawn random shapes. Because I'm really in the testing phase right now, and I want random shapes to pop up on the screen so I can test to see if they're staying within the constraints of my box. So I'm going to create a function. I'm not going to return anything, and it's just going to be called spawn shape. So let's just create that guy. And I want it to be random. So how many shapes do I have? Let's go check in Unity. Here I am back in Unity, click on prefabs, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shapes that we can work with. So that means that I need to generate an index between 0 and 6. So I'm going to call this shape index, and I'm going to generate a random value, use random range to do that with C#, and I want 0 to 6. So it's going to be between 0 and 6 is what I want to generate here. And then I want it to show on the screen. How do I do that? I go instantiate, and then I call shapes, and I want shape index. So I'm going to get one of those shapes out of my array, and I'm going to put the shapes in the array. That's the reason why this is public. I'm going to define those in the array over in Unity. And then I'm going to go transform position, and that's going to be the position of wherever shape spawner is on my screen. So that's what that is. And then this crazy thing handles rotation. So I'm not going to do anything rotation wise. And that's good. All right, so I have that all set up. Now what I need to do to test it is just to call that function as soon as the program starts. And that's it. That's all I need to do just for now with this. Now later on I'll want to, spawn more shapes, but I'm pretty happy with this, and let's go over into Unity and test this stuff out. Alright, so here I am inside of Unity. I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to say create empty, and I'm going to call this shape spawner. Put that guy right there, and then I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to grab my shape spawner script and drag it over into that guy. Now I have to figure out where I want my shape spawner to show up. You can see it's down here right now, and I'm going to be moving that around, I guarantee it. So I'm going to select shape spawner, come over here and click on this little doodad and move it up into place. So let's just move it up here and then over here, and we can test it out to see how it works, but I'm going to put it somewhere in that ballpark and see how it works out. So you can go in here and test it now. Let's just run it. Oh, whoops, I forgot to put the shapes inside of there. Okay, so let's go open up our shape spawner that we have right here. And you can see right here is our array shapes. See, whenever I am not prepared, I go and I make mistakes. So let's go and click on this guy, and let's click on 6 for our size. And that's 1, 2, 3. Actually, I'm going to have that be 7. So there we go. And then I'm going to go and grab my prefabs, which is what it's going to throw in there. So go I shape, throw that right there, J shape, and L shape. and O shape, and S, T, and Z. All right, so now we got our shapes in there. We will be able to spawn them now. So I'll save that, and we'll come and play it. And you can see it pops up right there on the screen. Less than ideal. It's to the right. Looks kind of weird. Let's click on this and just go and verify that it's popping up different shapes. That's definitely not ideal. So let's move it over a little bit to the left. So shape spawner, and let's move it a little bit to the left, and let's move it down a little bit. There's going to be a lot of tweaking involved here. Let's grab this guy and move it down. And play it again, and let's see where it shows up. Still way over there to the right. All right, so let's just leave it at that right now. And let's now take a look at how we are going to have the shapes stay within a binding box, this binding box right here. And at the same time, how we are going to be able to rotate and move left, right, and down like we can do inside of Tetris. So what I think I want to do is create a new script, and I'm going to call it shapes. Sounds good. Or let's call it shape. That makes sense because it's only going to be tied to one shape. So let's open up shape, see how that works out. And we're going to click reload. So here is shape. Now, what sort of things am I going to need to do with my shape? Well, my shapes are going to move at an increasing speed as difficulty, increases with my Tetris game. So I'm going to come in here and define speed. Now, I don't know if I'm going to use this yet, but I know at some point I am going to want to use it. So let's do that. What else am I going to need to do? I don't know. I can't think of anything. I'm sure things will come up. All right, so let's go down into our update section. And what I'm going to do here is I'm basically going to monitor when the user clicks on different keys. So what that means is I'm going to have to define those in the inputs. Let's jump back over into Unity. And yes, this is exactly how I work. I constantly go, what? Let's go make a script. And then I go, oh, wait a minute. I have to go in and set the project settings for input. So let's click on that. All right. So here's axes. Sorry about that. And I'm going to have to create some new ones. So I'm going to want my shapes to be able to be moved left, right, down, and I want to rotate them. I want to have everything set up so that it works with A, W, S, and D. So I'm just going to create my own things. So I'm going to change this to 22, and it's going to create a whole bunch of cancels here. Boom. And then I'm going to open up this guy, and I'm going to define my own shapes. So I'm going to give this guy the name of A, to just keep it very simple. Change this to A, and then get rid of that. And there we go. Just defined a new input. Let's open up another one. And I'm going to give this one the default of D. We're going to monitor the D button, and I'm going to get rid of that. So get rid of this. And we're also going to do the same with W. Get rid of that. And then finally, we're going to do one for S. And there's S, and get rid of that. Okay, so now we are monitoring those inputs. Now let's jump back into the shape, and let's set them up. Okay, so here we are. So how do we check if an input or if a button on the keyboard's been pressed? We can go if input get key down, and that's just going to get one press of the button. It's not going to repetitively do it, and that's what we want with Tetris. So we're going to go if they press the A key, well then I want something to happen. What do I want to happen? Well, I want the position to move one to the left for our shape. Well, this is going to be tied to our shapes, to all of our different shapes, so that's going to work out perfectly fine. So what I can do is just go transform, and it's going to know I mean the shape that this script is tied to, position, and then I can increase or move it to the left. And how you do that is you go new and vector 3, and to the left is -1 and on the X plane, of course, and then 0, 0 for everything else because we're not moving anything else. So I know I want to do that. What else am I going to want to do? Well, I know that I'm going to have an issue where it's going to go outside of the grid. So how am I going to protect from that? I have no idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say debug log, and I'm going to print out on the screen my transform position, and then I can monitor how the X and Y coordinates change as the shape moves around on the screen. So let's do that for all of our different movements, and then we'll go in and we will add corrections to it. just a constant adding features. I mean, that's what it's all about. Then D is going to be to the right, so we're going to increase it. And we're also going to print that out. And what else are we going to do? Well, we are going to also want to monitor when the S key is clicked on so that we can move down. So we'll put that in there. We're not moving on the X plane anymore, so let's change that to 0. And then we are going to change this to -1. So that's going to work for this. And what else do we have? We have rotate. So that's going to be set for W. And for this one, you go and you don't use this guy right here. Instead, what you're going to use is transform rotate. And we will change that like this. And then you just change it to 90. And we're going to move it 90 degrees whenever the W key is pressed on. And that looks good. So let's go test it. All right, so we're going to go click on our prefabs, and I'm going to select every single one of these guys. So let's just select, whoops, there we are. Just select all of them right like that. And then I'm going to open up scripts, and I'm going to grab my shape and drag it over there and drop it right in there. And you can see that speed is going to be set up right here. Let's see. See, there's speed. I'm just going to leave that be 1. And we're going to save it, and then we're going to run it. And now you can see when these guys pop up that I'm going to be able to move them. You can also see that they are going too far. That's not good. So we are going to move our grid over a little bit. This guy right here, so that they line up a little bit better. Let's definitely do that, because this is just a mess. All right, so I'm going to move my entire middle grid part over a half decent amount. So let's fix that issue before it becomes an even bigger issue. So let's select all those guys, get this right here, and let's move it over something like that. Let's play it, see how it works. Now, we are not going to 100% rely on, we're not using collisions, because that would just be a nightmare. If we tried to do this using collisions, let me tell you, it would not work. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to eyeball it in the beginning, and then we're going to handle collisions on our own, because this is so tight. Let's move it over just a smidge more. There that is, just a smidge. We just want our eyeball to, it to look good eyeball-wise, and it looks pretty doggone perfect. All right, it's not going to have to be totally perfect. All right, so now look at that. It looks good to me, right? Yeah. All right, so it's doggone close. All right, so we're going to make it perfect later on, but we're very close right now, and that's all that matters. So what I want to do is I want to run it, and then I want to get the coordinates for the shape whenever we touch the different walls. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go like this, and then I'm going to stop. All right, so that's the position for that. And we're going to see that in the console, and you're going to see it right here. So it's 0.2. So this is definitely something we're also going to fix. But right now in the preliminary stage, everything's cool. So we're going to mark down that that is 0.2 on a piece of paper. So 0.2. All right, now what I'm going to do, and that's 0.2 to the right. Now what I'm going to do is figure out what it is to the left, and then finally what is the coordinate system for the bottom. Click on this once again, and this is going to be off, but we don't care. We're going to get it right. Okay, so that's good. And on the left is going to be -6.8, 6.8, and then down below is going to be roughly, let's see what this is. It doesn't quite get to the bottom of the screen either, but whatever. We'll move it up a little bit. That is going to be -8.8. So -8.8. And let's just come in here and grab all of those guys once again, and we will move the guys up here just slightly, something like that. And let's run it again just to see. And after tweaking this, everything looks pretty good. So now what we can do is worry about how we are going to constrain everything and keep it in the space. Okay, so I'm going to open up shape again, and I'm going to edit the code. Okay, here we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function that's basically going to try to figure out if I am within the border or not. So I'm going to call this public static. It's going to return a true or a false, and I'm going to call this is in border, and it's going to receive a vector, which is going to be the position for the shape. And let's name this is in border like that. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to return using my temporary values for X and Y and so forth for my grid. I'm going to go position X, greater than or equal to. This might be wrong also, but I'm testing it. So, let's go and int position x less than or equal to, well, it's not 3.5. What am I doing? I wrote this down. It is negative 6.8. Negative 6.8. I trust you know where I got those numbers at. I just got them just a second ago. Then this is going to be 0.2. And int, I'm going to check the y direction on this. And equal to, and this is going to be negative 8.8. And that's what it's going to return, true or false. So what I'm going to do then is I need to find a way to stop the rotation or movement of the shape if it is hitting one of those borders or not. So what I'm going to do here is if it does hit one of the borders, I am going to switch it back to the position that it was in previously, because that's the easiest way to do it. So I'm going to say if, and I'm going to say not is in border. Well, under that circumstance, I'm just going to do the absolute opposite of what I just did. So I'm just going to copy this and change it to the opposite. So I'll just do like that. Okay, pretty simple. And what I'm going to pass to it is transform position. Okay, so let's test this. This is going to be to move to the left side of the screen. So let's go into Unity and see if that worked. Okay, I'll play it. And then I'm going to click on A. Okay, so it's off by 1. That's it. So you can see that it did indeed stop it. So let's go back to the script, and then we will jump down to the bottom here. There we are. And let's change this to 5. And let's run it. And let's move it over. You can see now that it didn't quite go over the whole entire way. Why is that? Well, the reason why is, let's go back into Unity. Well, we got Unity here. Let's shut this off. You're going to notice that whenever we go and click on our prefabs, that they all have completely different areas, which is considered like the center of the shape. So let's click on eye shape here, and I'm going to have to zoom out. Well, let's go and drag the shape over. Okay, so here's eye shape. We'll drag that onto the screen, and you can actually see this is eye shape's position. See, it's way, way, way off. So that's not good. And we can grab J shape, throw it on the screen, and you can see the position for it. So basically what I'm going to need to do here is I'm going to need to check the central position for each of these blocks when I'm moving these around. I can't trust that because the shapes are completely different, I can't judge them based off of some key location in the center of it in regards to movement. So hopefully that makes sense. If it didn't, leave a comment below and I'll explain it better. But I'm going to have to cycle through and check the center of every child or each cube that makes up each one of these shapes. I am not going to be able to look at the shapes as a whole. Okay, so how I'm going to do that is I'm going to do that in code. And I'm going to be changing some things here, quite a bit actually. Since I already have is in border here, what I'm going to do is create another function, and it's going to be public bool, and I'm going to call this is in grid, and it's not going to be past anything. And then I'm going to cycle through all of the different child objects, and I'm also going to check the position for the child objects. That is what I'm going to do here with child count. So I'm going to go child count. Once again, I'm always thinking about how I'm going to debug what I'm doing here. So I'm going to call that child count, and then I'm going to go for each, and this is going to be a transform. This is going to be the child cube objects transform that I'm going to have inside of here. Let's call this child block in transform, and this transform is going to be the shape as a total. So then what I need to do is go vector 2, and this is vect is going to be child block position. So that's what I'm going to be checking, the position, the center mark for our child. I'm going to increment child count, and that's just for debugging purposes. I'm not going to do anything other than, output some information. And what I'm going to put out information-wise this time is child count plus, and then I'm going to output the child block's position. So child block position in the console so that I can see that and then debug where I need to move things around. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to say if not is in border and pass the child's vector, then I want to return false. Otherwise, if we go through all of this stuff, which is going to be down here after the for each block, I'm going to return true. Then, am I going to have to do anything different here is in border? So far, nothing, but I will have to change these numbers because these numbers are no doubt wrong. So how do I need to change all of these other guys up here? Well, let's go up here and take a look. Well, I'm going to have to change this to is in grid, and is in grid doesn't get past anything, so let's get rid of that. And everything else here is going to be exactly the same. So what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this, and we're going to come down here to get key down, paste that right there, and then I'm going to change this. So this is going to be a -1. Everything else here is exactly the same. Come down to the next one of these guys, pop in here, is in grid, and this is going to be changed to 0, and then this is going to be changed to 1 to undo that. And then we'll come down here to the W, which is going to rotate. So is in grid, and we're just going to do the absolute opposite of what this is. So let's just grab this, paste that inside of there, and then this is going to be -90. Okay, so I'm going to open up these cubes, the main walls, and actually see the cube position here. So I got the calculation a little bit off. So let's click on cube here and see where it actually is. It is actually at 0.73. So let's change what we had previously. So this is going to be -0.73. And I'm betting this is the issue. And then the next one, the right wall, is going to be 10.31, and then the bottom wall is -10.45, so -10.45. And we will be changing those because working with floats is not going to be something we want to do. So let's jump over into the code and test that out. Here we are. So let's change this to -0.73, and we'll change this one to 10.31. And we will change this one to 10.45, and we'll test this and see. It's probably going to be off, but we'll test it. And let's run it, and we'll move the shapes. Okay, so that's off. So we need to be able to go to the left 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks. Jump out of there, open the code. Let's change this to 4. Jump back in, play it. Ah, look at that. Now that works. Okay. And then we'll subtract quite a bit from this. Let's see here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's jump back over here. So this is going to be 3, 3, 1. Let's test it. A little bit too much. That's good though. And I'm going to have the spawner load these shapes lower so that we don't have the issue where it's going across the top there like that. And there that works. And there that works. Okay, good. And how are we doing down here below? Got that the first time. Let's make sure when we rotate, it doesn't cause issues. And it's not letting me rotate. Oh, there I rotated. Rotated up though. Whenever I rotate, then it's going down. So let's just verify that. One thing that I noticed when I was poking around here is whenever I define my canvas, I forgot to drag my camera over there. So let's go and grab our main camera, drop it inside of there. Okay, so that's good. Save it. Let's reload this again, test it again. Again, we can move to the left and the right. Those are perfect. And let's move down. That seems to be good as well. And then once we get to the bottom of the screen, let's reload this again from the top. Let's run it again. When we get to the bottom of the screen, obviously, we're going to have to stop everything. So let's do rotate and see what happens. Rotate. Yeah, that gets all wacky. Okay, so as I rotate this, look how wacky it gets. I know why it does it. I went and took a look. All right, so let's go and let's look at this L and let's try to figure out why it's not rotating the way it should rotate. Let's go and find the L shape. Drag it onto the scene, and you will see the answer. I don't know why, but originally I thought that I had positioned this at the 0, 0 mark, but obviously I didn't. So what I'm going to need to do is fix that. So how do I fix it? Well, we're going to delete that. I could redraw all the prefabs, but I would prefer to just come in here and just fix them all. So I'm going to show you how to fix them. So here's my eye shape. And we know that's messed up. And you can see right here that it is not in the 0, 0 position. So what we're going to do, change that to 0, change this to 0. And then I'm going to properly position all of the cubes around that position. So we're then going to go here, click on that guy. And we're going to set him also to 0, or her. I don't know what the cube is. All right, so we got that in the 0, 0 position. We can look at our eye shape and we now see that everything is all messed up. So what we're going to have to do is reorient all the other cubes for our eye shape based off of that 0, 0 position so that we will be able to properly rotate. Click on this guy. and we know that we want it to be 1 over from our starting 0 position. So we're going to change that to 1, and we're going to change this to 0. Now if we go and click on the eye shape, you're going to see that those are aligned down here. So what we need to do now is just get all the other ones aligned. So let's go. We're not going to have this be perfect, but we're going to have it be very, very close to perfect, where the rotation is going to center around a center point. So that's -1. We'll change that to 0. Click on this cube, come down here, and we will change this to 2 and 0. And that is going to give us a straight line for our eye shape, right back where we were previously. And I don't know if we're going to be able to trust that. Let's just go and run it and see if by chance we get an eye shape to pop up. No, let's just do it. And there we got one. So now let's try rotating it. And you can see now it rotates the way that we thought that we would want it to rotate. So now we know we're doing it the right way. So now let's go and fix all the rest of them. So J shape, let's change this to 0, change this to 0, come down to the next one. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see a little bit better. I just clicked on J shape, 0, 0. Let's click on this box right here, and we're going to orient it around. So we'll go, it's obviously easier to do whenever you very first create the shape. But like I said, sometimes things get messed up, your code and so forth, and this is how we can correct this specific issue. So J shape, we want to go 1 over, and we want to go and 0 that out. Select the next one, and this is going to be 1 to the right, and then nothing on the Y direction. And then for this final one, we're going to go 1 and -1 in the X and Y position. And if we select the J shape, you can see that works. And I know the rotations are going to work. We'll now do it for all the other different shapes. Once again, 0 this out. We are going to get the cube, 0 both of these out, 0 and 0. That's going to be a central point. We will get this guy, and we will change it to -1 and 1, 1 over, 0 down, -1 and 0. And let's come out of here and verify that it works. Yes, that's the way it's supposed to look. Now we'll get the O shape. First select the O, it is 0, and that's 0, 0. That is 1, 1, exactly the way that it's supposed to be. This is 1, 0. Okay, so for some reason the cubes were right, and the other shapes weren't. Okay, whatever, we'll figure it out. Change this to 0, 0. So did one of them right and one of them wrong? I don't know how it happened. All right, so here's the S shape. Change the first one to 0 it out. Then we're going to go 1 and 0, 0 and -1, and then -1 and -1. Save that, click on my S shape, verify that it is okay. Yes, that's exactly what I want it to look like. We'll do it for the T shape as well. Put this in the center, click on the first cube. This is also going to be centered. Grab the next part. This is going to be -1 and 0, -1 and 0. Click on that. This is going to be 1 and 0. And then finally, we are going to click on this one, and this is going to be 0 and -1. So this is how we can set up shapes so that they will properly rotate. Vertical wall, don't need to worry about. The Z shape is going to be 0 and 0, and the cube is 0 and 0, and this guy right here is going to be -1 and 0. The next one down is going to be 0 and -1. And then finally, to correct every one of these shapes, this is going to be 1 and -1. All right, and if we click on the Z shape, it looks like a Z. All right, so everything's cool. Now let's go and see if anything else got messed up whenever we were doing all those changes. So you can see we can now properly rotate. You can see that we are staying within the confines of our box. Are we staying within the confines of the bottom? No, we're not. But it's not really a problem with the numbers. It's a matter of the grid being off. So I just need to adjust the grid a little bit. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to select all of these boxes and bring them together. Just select them. Come over here, click on this guy, and let's drag it down about halfway, so something like that. And then let's play it again, see what it looks like. Wow, I got lucky there. It's just about perfect. All right, cool. So, and then I got to move it over to the left just a smidge, and then everything else should look great. See if it's okay here. Yep, it needs to go over to the left a smidge. So now I'm just messing around. All right, and play it again. Looks perfect. Looks just about perfect. Looks really good. Okay, so everything's lining up there. Needs to go up just slightly. Just a ton of tweaking. That's what this is all about. All right, and I'm going to trust that that is all good. So what else do we need to do? Well, the final thing I want to do before we finish off everything's staying within the grid, is I want everything to fall automatically. What I mean by that is the shapes should fall automatically on our screen. So we're of course going to have to go into our code and make that happen. So let's go to scripts and shape. Now what makes sense for me is to tie this directly into our get key downs for the letter S specifically. So this guy right here. So what exactly, how can we once per second go and act as if that the S key has been pressed so that it'll automatically move the things down? Well, I'm going to have to track when the last movement downwards was, and then basically increment that once per second. So let's go up here, and I'm going to create a float, and it's going to be called last move down, and it's going to start off with a 0 value, and it's going to increment once per second. Now what I'm going to do is go down into this box right here, and I'm going to go OR, and I'm going to put time inside of here. And the very first time that we go through this time inside of update, it's going to have a value of 1, and then the next time through, it's going to increment. So what I need to do is I'm going to go time, and I'm going to subtract last move down, and if it's greater than or equal to 1, well then I know that 1 second has passed, and I can basically move my shape down a little bit. I'm going to have to change the code in here a little bit more, because I'm going to need to reset last move down to the previous version of time each time that it goes through here. So I'm going to put them right here, and right before we leave this block, I'm going to go last move down is going to be equal to the current value for time, and then it should automatically work. And let's go test it. Here we are, play it. Shape appears, it's in a good position, and you can see it's also moving, and I can also move left and right. That doesn't keep it from moving down, and I can also rotate it, and that is not keeping it from moving down. And I'm just verifying that I cannot rotate my way through walls or move through walls. All right, guys. So did a lot, fixed a lot of errors, learned a lot, and basically what I need to do in the next part of the tutorial is figure out how to stack these blocks, and also to figure out an ingenious way to keep from being able to move the blocks around once we get to the bottom of the screen. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I enjoyed making it. And like always, please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.